Million-Dollar Habits by Brian Tracy. My favorite thing about Brian Tracy is just how beginner-friendly his material is. I don't know how much I can listen to at one time, but even the masters are going over the basics, and his stuff is the most simplistic and easy to understand you could probably put out. If you have trouble understanding Brian Tracy's work, I don't know what you wouldn't have trouble understanding, because there's really nothing complicated about it between mindset, goal setting, and psychology. Sales is a little bit trickier. But not really. So what did he have under his sleeve to share with us here in Million-Dollar Habits? Let's talk about it. Just so you guys know, there are affiliate links in the description, and if you buy anything through those links, like maybe this book, then I get commission, which helps me build this channel and keep making these videos. And you can also find them on my Amazon storefront. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Sam, and I want to make self-growth normal, because people shouldn't have to look this information up. It should just be mainstream knowledge. If you agree, then please make sure to smash that like button. As much as I hate to say it, because I've learned a lot from and respect the hell out of him, my expectations for this book are not all that high. And the reason why is that Brian Tracy is extremely prolific and kind of predictable. He has written 80 books. Who else writes 80 books? Expect some to be better than others. There's got to be some dip in consistency somewhere, right? I mean, writing books, it's an art form. But where does this lie in that sort of spectrum? Let's find out. Chapter 1 is where your habits begin. One section of this chapter kind of stood out about taking control of your life, where he discussed the internal locus of control. I've heard this term time and time again, and I never fully grasped what it meant. So there's an internal one and there's an external one. This is where you find that controlling exists in each area of your life. Supposedly, it determines heavily your happiness or unhappiness more than any other factor. Basically, it's an internal locus control means that you believe you control the outcomes of your life, and external means everything else in your life determines those outcomes. In a much more direct and simplistic manner, it summarizes kind of the law of attraction and other laws of the universe, like the law of correspondence that you might hear about in like Think and Grow Rich or The Secret. Chapter 2 is the master program of success. I realized pretty early into the book that the author wasn't like, in this book I'm going to talk about these habits. And yet later into the book he actually talks about the habits, which is very like Brian Tracy. That's something he would do. This dude is honestly like a robot. He's been saying the same things for decades. For probably over 50 years now, he has been talking about positive self-talk, productivity, and self-discipline. The whole thing with I like myself, where you say it to yourself like 10 to 50 to 100 times a day, having a remarkable impact on your personality. I've reviewed, I think, 3 books of his now. They're all about very different things, and all of them mention it. Like, okay, this dude obviously really likes himself, but we should too. Chapter 3 is becoming a person of value. The fact of the matter is, when it comes to habits, is that you can't effectively start many new ones at once. You have to be patient. It's taken a lifetime for you to become who you are today. If you adopt one habit a month, you could change yourself drastically in a year. And in 5 years, you'll have 60 new habits and you'd be a totally different person. The habits you need to succeed is chapter 4. A lot of this chapter had to do with goal setting specific goals, not just vague ones, and writing them down daily, a topic which has been beaten to death by self-development books since self-development books were beaten to life. Tracy really likes taking linear results and just compounding them over time. It's like sales math. You have girl math and boy math and cat math and dog math, sales math. If you read 30 to 60 minutes each day, you could complete about 1 book per week. The average American reads less than 1 book per year. If you read at least 1 book per week, you should finish at least 50 books a year. As it happens, earning a PhD from a university requires the reading and synthesis into a dissertation of about 40 to 50 books. If you were to read 1 book per week, 50 books per year, you'd be getting the equivalent of a practical PhD in your field each year. If you continue reading at this level, you would read 500 books in the next 10 years. In a world where the average person reads 1 book per year, do you think you might gain an edge? Not very salesy, but very quality sales-like logic, I'll tell you that. Chapter 5, the habits of people who become millionaires. Something I loved in this chapter is where he talked about being the type of person who can become a millionaire. How if you can make 1 million, then the second million becomes inevitable. The first one is the hardest. And how if you lose it all, you can just get it all back because you're the type of person who can become a millionaire. I also like how he talked about saving money. Millionaires never buy new when they can buy used. They never buy if they can lease, and they never lease if they can rent. Play that again, and just, it's a lot to take in at once. It's crazy. Like, find the way that's gonna make you and save you the most. He talked briefly about cars. There's an excellent chapter on buying a car on your way to financial independence in The Millionaire Next Door, a book I really wasn't a fan of in philosophy, but the authors, they knew what they were talking about. The next car I get's probably gonna be a 2009 or 2010 Toyota RAV4 with like 100,000 miles. I could probably make a whole video about why. By the way, the story about Brian and his wife Barbara, where was that type of story throughout the book? I would love to hear more about this guy's life. I feel like I don't know anything about him. Come on, Brian, you gotta open up a little. Honestly, I think this was the best chapter. There's so much solid advice in it that you just don't hear anywhere else. Chapter 6, the habits that get you paid more and promoted faster. This is where he really starts to dig into these habits. Peter Drucker said that work is an extension of personality. It is achievement. It is one of the ways in which a human defines his or herself and measures his worth and his humanity. He also said that in the 21st century, the most important skill will be the skill of learning new skills. Tracy is a big Drucker fan. If you guys can't tell, the bulk of this book was not about what you might think just based on the beginning. If you check out the beginning of this book and you're like, oh, he's just talking about the law of attraction, it's a trash book, I don't like it, and where's the habits? Dude, I'm giving you the chapter names right here. The chapter names talk about what they are. I mean, the beginning is chock full of content that has been talked about for literally centuries. The rest, not so much. I mean, how long has business been around? But it's more of an amalgamation of older and newer content, often citing professors in higher league universities when bringing up new examples or studies. I mean, this book didn't come out yesterday, but it didn't come out, in 1926. The Habits of Top Business People, chapter 7. I mean, he does talk about habits. In this chapter, he talked about delegation, logistics, looking at your product as a consumer and not just a salesperson, considering what your competitors are doing and learning from it, inspecting what you expect, pretty cool one, and more. Chapter 8, the habits for marketing and sales success. The biggest series of takeaways from this was the 7P formula: product, price, promotion, place, packaging, position, and people. As marketplaces change over time, you must continually revisit these to make sure you're on the track for achieving the maximum results possible. Chapter 9, the habits of a personal effectiveness. The ultimate determinant of high performance is your habits. Those are ultimately up to you, and it ultimately depends on how badly you ultimately want it. A lot of what can be found in this chapter can be found in a video that completely changed my life. Of course, Brian Tracy's in it. Look up Brian Tracy Time Management Seminar on YouTube and watch the 55-minute video with the cheesy purple background that looks like it was filmed in the 80s, probably was. And watch it over and over and over again. I haven't seen it in a while, but I watched it once in a week for maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years, and no one wastes my time anymore, and that's that. The amount of stuff that he goes over in 55 minutes, it is mind-boggling, but he covers it all. You don't miss a beat. And a lot of it is in this chapter. But you can also find it free on YouTube. So, pick your battles. Not even a battle, it's just a video. Chapter 10, the habits for getting along well with others. The absolute best part of this is forgive and let go. That story about him and his wife and the Mercedes, like again, where was that type of story in the rest of this book? You hear so many of these other business authors writing about personal experiences with their spouses and other family members and friends and partners and clients, using them as lessons and then extracting those lessons, meaning like, what can my readers and listeners learn from this? What I'm finally starting to realize bothers me about Tracy is how rarely he does this. This guy is in the self-development and business genre and a few other genres, similar ones. He's not a biographer, he's not a historian, he's not an investigative journalist, he's not Robert Greene, he's not Yuval Noah Harari, and he's not Malcolm Gladwell. He can talk about his personal life, okay? It's not that it comes off as inauthentic not to, right? But it's very authentic when you do. To deny it all, his writing may try, but he does, and I think he'd benefit from talking more about it, right? Chapter 11, the habits for health and well-being. Obviously, by eating less and exercising more, I'm sure he meant to do this in moderation. Please, folks, don't spend all your time exercising and starving yourself. Lastly, chapter 12, the habits of character and leadership. I mean, you could tell he really did talk about so many different habits in so many different areas of life. By the end of the book, it really does kind of make sense how all of these can shape someone up to become a millionaire. The last chapter, this one though, was probably my favorite, talking about how the greatest leaders became the greatest leaders and developed their senses of character, using things like persistence, gratitude, and a trio of what American Dad might call lointegristy. honesty. Loyalty, integrity, and honesty. Overall, it's not as personable as I'd like it to be. Not much of his work is, and it took me reviewing 3 of his books just to realize that, but Tracy knows how to write, he knows how to explain and teach, he knows how to train, he knows how to organize, all better than almost anyone I can name, and he's essentially mastered the art of authorship. Otherwise, I mean, everything else is the whole package here, and I have no complaints. Quotes: good habits are hard to form but easy to live with. Bad habits are easy to form but hard to live with. You are not what you think you are, but what you think you are. Proper diagnosis is half the cure. Children need love like roses need rain. Investments are like buses. There will always be another coming along. Amateurs talk about tactics. Professionals talk about logistics. Turn your face to the sun and the shadows fall behind you. Direction 1. I recommend this book for anyone who's interested in putting him, her, themselves on a fast track toward prosperity, or just wants a solid reminder of what goes into that. Direction 2. If you like this book, I recommend checking out Millionaire Success Habits by Dean Graziosi. That's a fantastic book. $1 Million Habits by Brian Tracy. There's a link in the description if you guys want to check it out and read the reviews. That and all the other books that I mentioned in this video if you want to check those out too. By the way, every single book that I mentioned in this video, I have also reviewed it, and I will drop a link to my review of each one in the description. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, because I don't get why people watch this far into my videos and they don't subscribe. But if you have subscribed and you want to turn it up just a notch and turn on the notification bell to get a notification whenever I drop new videos, that would mean the world to me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. You can find me everywhere, and I will see you then.